Hello and welcome to Nollywood Film Club. I'm Mr. C, a Viroka critic, and I hope you are doing well. Just had a very fun conversation, very interesting conversation. Maybe not fun, more interesting. Interesting conversation. And this one was a long time coming because it's one of those observations that has been cropping up in a lot of Nollywood conversations. Um, yeah, not too much to say. I would say there was a break in transmission on the spaces. Thanks, Elon. But if you notice that and Mr. C is trying to get the space back together again, that's what happened. But all of that being said, I hope you enjoy Nollywood Film Club discussing Domitilla and the portrayal of sex workers in Nollywood. Welcome to Nollywood Film Club. We do discuss Nollywood every Sunday, 6 p.m. Watt. Today we will be discussing portrayal of sex work in Nollywood, which hopefully will be an interesting conversation. We'll look at old and new Nollywood. We're using Domitilla as a point of contact. Yes. I can't study, but there will be other, we'll discuss other films as well. Anything that comes to mind, we'll delve into. We just want to discuss what we think, how we think Nollywood portrays sort of sex work, the sex work industry. Yeah. Anyway, we should start with, let's just briefly start with Domitilla, the 1996 version. I think it was 96. And before we go into the general discussion, because I think it was actually Elizabeth who recommended this to me because she used to say this has one of the better portrayals of sex work in Nollywood, and I was keen to engage. I was like, oh, because like based on what I've been seeing recently, that's very unusual. So anybody who has seen Domitilla, the 96 version, if you want to give thoughts on what you thought about the portrayal of sex work in Nollywood, please go ahead. All right. Alana, do you want to start?
Please, before we say portrayal of sex work, please, we have to talk about the films to start with before we go into the thematic layer because I have things to say.
You want to talk about what else in the film?
Yes, the film. You have
Yes,
to
I
talk
want to
about
talk
the
about
film.
Domitilla, actually, the old Domitilla.
Yes. No, new one
That's
too.
about sex work
New
now.
one too.
That new one is a fever dream for me, but like,
No, you have to talk about it. That's
no
why I'm
problem,
here.
no
What?
problem. Let me start with the old one because I can't. Funny enough, I watched the new one about 2 weeks ago, but I was just watching it halfway, so my mind not too day there. There were things that I noticed that kind of aligns with this topic. So I don't know, but I liked. Can I talk?
You are indeed talking.
Okay. I'm sorry. Good evening, guys. So I liked the old Domitilla. I liked the chemistry between Annie Jemanze, Sandra Achum's Kate Henshaw, and Adame. I really liked the pigeon, specifically when Annie Jemanze and Basoj Taraya would have their little back and forth. It was very nice to hear again. It was very sweet pigeon, very sexy pigeon. It's not like we hear these days. I liked the portrayal of certain things. I liked certain characters in it. Aside like the humanization, first of all, of sex workers, of Domitilla in this sense. I like that they humanized her. They brought people that were like, oh, she's just a prostitute. And then there were also characters that said, no, this is more than prostitution. This is a human being. And I liked the I've forgotten her name, but Enebeli's daughter in it. I really liked that character because she was, it's like sometimes we talk about characters that are very interesting in Nollywood, and I found that character interesting because they wrote her as not necessarily like kind of a neutral party, but at the same time leaning towards her father's side of things. And she was eventually the person that outed her mother more or less. But I really liked the presence of that character. And of course, the lawyers, the portrayal of the lawyers from the defense lawyer, the first defense lawyer that was useless for all intents and purposes, and then the replacement lawyer who happened to be a woman who happened to also understand that just because somebody happens to be a sex worker doesn't mean that she should be condemned, or doesn't mean that she's a murderer and stuff like that. And there was also the angle where Domitilla was not just carrying on the streets looking for sex work. She had a job. So it was more of she was doing sex work because society had failed her, because she needed to make money, but her job was frustrating her, and she was trying to find love in the process as well, because we saw her on a date with Charles Okafor's character. I don't know. I just like the general portrayal of sex workers, the whole aspiration of finding a good man at some point that they could settle down with. I thought that it was nicely done in Domitilla, the original. Should I speak on the new one? That's just like another topic.
Let's do the old one first.
Okay.
And actually, I think I find it interesting that, I agree with all of what you said there. And I just find it interesting that watching a film from 1996 feels progressive by today's standard, which is kind of strange. It's kind of bizarre. But, Elizabeth, did you want to discuss any thoughts from the old 19?
Oh yes, I have thoughts. It might seem all over the place, but so I can't remember the last time I watched it. I've seen it like 3 more times since I first saw it in '96, or 4 more times, because I really like it. So I think I should still be able to remember some things from it. I didn't watch it because I went to go and watch the new Domitilla and I didn't have enough time. Okay, now, so first, I wanted to say that one of the things why I think Domitilla is one of our better made movies of all time, really, if somebody has, what are the, at least storytelling wise, script writing wise, if somebody asked me that was one of the better written movies, I would say Domitilla 1996, because it's made use of a technique. Now I might not be able to remember it. It made use of a technique that I think not just progressive is the word, is immersive. Because once you start watching it, you're introduced to our actors, to all the characters from the go. And no, they're not giving you time to take them in. You're introduced to them and you're in their world. Like, you are in their world from minute zero. You see how they work, in quotes. Their camaraderie, even with their pimp, who was Basoj Saria. The camaraderie, what wasn't introduced to us was how bad this life was. That was not the first introduction. First introduction is of street girls, and then they showed them at home, a very lived-in home to start with, a very familiar home, and again, the friendship, the gisting, the pigeon, the camaraderie, like everything, even Adame's character that seems to be a little bit more on the edge, right? Even, the way they gist with each other. And again, immediately we see, and Njamaze's, I think she tried to have a boyfriend. Somebody came to look for her. She had to lie about her roommates. Of course, so immediately again, we were introduced to how difficult it was to date. Now, it's not about, this girl that is a street worker, this babe had a job. And this film did not use exposition to explain anything to us. During the day, we saw her at our work. We know our boss is an asshole, and we know the pay was really bad. One of the things I really appreciated also is that we were not introduced to her sub story, because it was not even sub, until like until maybe 30 minutes into Domitilla, because this film is like 1 hour, 40 minutes. We didn't know anything about, oh, look at me, poor me, my background. No. And when we saw her background, it wasn't also, she didn't sit crying, feeling sorry for herself. It was straight, guys, I've been sending you money. What are you doing with the money? And the need, there is urgency and we need this babe. We need to get more money. And you people should forgive me. This film has one of the better meet cutes. Don't come for my neck. Yes, he's a married man, but Enebeli Elebua was very smooth here. It was not just smooth. There was also that, I don't want to use the word chemistry, but you see the friendship that formed immediately. It was not a fine babe, come here, you get nyash, I will pay you, I will buy the house for you. They started out talking to each other. Tell me about yourself. No, you tell me about yourself. And she was really flowing with him, talked about his daughter, talked about how if people see them together, if paparazzi sees them together, next thing is going to, I'm high, da 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 da. And all of that, you see the friendship form between herself and this chief. And first, they didn't also first, the same didn't tell us how, oh, look, my wife was so terrible to him. That's why I went to go and look for her. No, we met them on neutral ground. When we even saw this politician, we are sure that he has family. We are very certain. But it was not, because he talked about his daughter, how he spoils and how he loves her. That was not the point. The point is, this filmmaker tried to make us see, judge for yourself. No, I'm not going to introduce anything to, change your mind. I'm not, basically the scriptwriter was not leading us on how to feel and what to feel. And I think that's one of so this is just talking about, how interaction interaction was written here and directed, not just written. Interaction was directed so well. You feel like you're in the midst of these babes who even every conversation they had is like all of you are having it together. Now, by the time they showed us the bad side of prostitution, when they lost somebody and all of them got really scared. I remember then when Domitilla first, I think we watched Silent Night and Domitilla was advertised in there. My mom was like, we must not borrow it because the cop person Ed and it was in the trailer. And she was like, no, you must not watch it until but the point, I tried to remember, I thought the movie was going to, even as at that time when I was younger, I thought the movie was going to be about people killing prostitutes. And it ended up not being like that. Even though that was what the trailer said. They lost one person. Of course, it changed all of them. They were really scared. And at this time, she was already dating this married man, this politician, and it was good to her. And so she could take her family from poverty. She could take her friends. She could help her friends, the ones that did not die, right? And she had this life until they introduced another technique that I really love. Our conflict at the end was more of a masterclass in social commentary because it was a mistake. We also didn't find out about this. Again, I think this is one of the better done thrillers of crime. Let me use that word. Of course, it's not crime, but it's one of the better done. We're not exactly sure how this woman did this crime, but at the back of my mind, we knew somebody killed her. Was she not? Was she the wife? We didn't know any of these things because Nigerian scriptwriters we don't know how to write crime again. We just used to explain crime. Oh, look, computer, somebody stole money. But this was one of the better done. And I love how the social commentary at the end. I know Olan has talked about how, humanize. Yes, humanity. But the point is, this movie, the scriptwriter is not telling you what to do with your feelings, right? It's telling you a story. It's not directing what you must feel. Of course, make use of music, all these other plot devices to help. And what even helped her eventually is that her friend that she sets up, that her friend, a fellow prostitute, was the one that went and got a human rights lawyer. Her friends banded together. Guys, you don't understand how I love the portrayal of friendship here and community. And, the slight commentary, not slight, but it wasn't, and the thing is, the commentary was not on the nose. Nobody stood on a podium to preach. Oh, treat prostitutes right and never do prostitution. We didn't get any of those. What we saw is what we saw. And then at the end, the daughter, even though she overheard her mom, but she came and said, look, it was my mom that did this. Oh no, I was not trying to kill her. I was not trying to kill my husband. I was trying to kill this girl. But so Domitilla for me is one of the victories in storytelling that we've managed to do over the years, because here we see friendship. So there are so many thematic layers to it: the poverty, the friendship, the familial friendship too, as in interaction, mostly how it was portrayed, and societal ill and all of that. Honestly, yeah, Domitilla is that girl. And they even gave me romance. Don't come for my chest. I like the romance. People did not see that time that she was, I'm not going to raise. There was romance.
All right, thanks, Elizabeth. Yeah, I remember watching this, and one of my takeaway, aside when I really enjoyed when the community, I was like, look at this woman's community pulling for her, especially because she had that time where she had come up a little bit and she helped her community, and when she was in trouble, her community came through to help her. I really liked like that aspect, and I agree with you in terms of. I wouldn't say like the script doesn't have an agenda, because I think like I can't call it both progressive and say it doesn't have an agenda, because humanizing sex workers in 1996, it sounds like a really that sounds like an agenda on its own, but
Oh, I'm sure it has an
yeah.
agenda. Oh, no, I'm just saying the way the script was
Yes,
written.
yes.
Do you get?
I agree with you. And one of the things that I said to that is that none of the characters are like pure. Nobody in this comes out like looking like a mighty saint. Everybody is, you have obviously, Domitilla, who is hustling in many ways, but she has to lie to people to keep, to sort of keep her head above water. You have the wife who is going to try and murder her, the wife of, but you also have anybody who's cheating on his, on his wife with, smudges is like, oh, I'll get you a new wardrobe worthy of a mistress. Hi, boss, this guy.
Guys, you did not see their interaction. And me, I'm not here for it, fool. Because I was like,
I
wow,
saw
a
it,
cute
Elizabeth.
thing.
Don't worry, me, I saw it.
Look, me, I'm with you. When they were having their little banter at the table, at the party where they just met, I'm like,
These people, like, anyway, whatever. This is not
want some light infidelity among friends.
okay, all right. Okay.
Good for the goose, not the gander.
So, but yeah, it was interesting to just see like it didn't turn her into she wasn't some,
Didn't have to make her a victim.
yeah, she didn't have to make a victim, she didn't have to make her completely
a saint
a saint or anything like that. Like it was just everybody, and anybody wasn't a saint
He
either.
wasn't a saint
It wasn't like your traditional prince.
Yeah, Prince Charming.
Coming to just come and collect you like that. So
They're just people.
Yeah, it's just people. That was so. In terms of humanizing sex workers, that is as good.
Yeah,
as
and I feel like there were little bits of dialogue thrown in there as well to just, because I just remember the interaction the human rights lawyer was having with the prosecution's lawyer outside, and he goes, a lot of this time, these prostitutes are just not worth it.
Yeah.
Right? It's like these little sentences thrown in there.
Yeah.
And,
it's the humanizing.
It's the humanizing, but it's like, yeah.
That's the angle it certainly has, but like it's still with its characters anyway. I think it does it well.
Yeah.
Look, now I'm not discussing the film. I'm discussing the story, because there obviously tons of things that we can, like, I think for one, like, the score is like, can barely, you have to struggle to hear the film dialogue. Because like,
it was so loud.
No, but yeah, like,
yeah, no, that year we just used to have to
squinting to hear.
Yeah.
Like maybe if I just
guys, we were using VHS, and the way it was, the way VHS transmits on all those Panasonic TV Sharp, it was a bit different.
Good, but yeah. Anyway, so that's the old Domitilla. Anyway, anybody else had anything they wanted to add for old Domitilla?
Everybody has said what I wanted to say, but can we give a shout out to the acting, please? I think a huge part of these women feeling like real people is because aside from how the dialogue framed them and how the writing framed them, These women were not putting on. You know, which is a thing we're probably going to talk about in the portrayal of sex work and sex workers in Nollywood, especially with the recent type of acting that's going on and what new Nollywood actors think being a sex worker is and how a sex worker acts. These girls were just girls. Like them in the house after going to Yara Sikira to go and buy rice and there was no ewa going and there was no dudu and they were complaining about the realities of the fact that there's no food and their babe walks in and she's a working class babe. It's just these girls feel like even if they were not sex workers, these girls just feel like they're friends who just yap, right? And they have these shared situations. They didn't feel like they were putting on even when they were working on the streets and they had to be enticing and all of that. They were not doing that thing. Also, guys, did you notice how many chewing gum was chewed? Barely a chewing gum was chewed in Domitilla, guys. Barely a chewing gum was chewed. And this is my thing, yeah? We have this caricature now in New Nollywood and how these actors portray sex workers. If they are not chewing gum,
They
they're
are fighting. They are calling each other hoes.
exactly. There's no camaraderie. There's always a fight in the brothel or wherever they live. But these girls looked out for each other. These girls, you know, again, it contributed to us seeing them as people, like they are. This wasn't two dimensional, and I think the acting played a huge role in it. So that was my extra thing. But all the other things everybody said, yes, the humanization, the showing us people without telling us people, the introduction, like honestly, seeing her at work, coming home, I was like, yeah, it makes sense that she met someone like Charles Okafor because she works, right? And she does make that point to her friends. Obviously, I met him because I'm a working babe. But like, there's also the fact that she might run into people from her other life. It's all just, it's logical and it makes sense. And yeah, genuinely, I agree, it's one of the better portrayals that we've done in ages. And that was before I was born. Oh, God.
Oh God. Alana, what do you want to add before we go on to the other portrayals?
Yeah, I just I think Vanessa mentioned something that actually made me remember another thing I liked about this. It's that the character wasn't like a one-way street. This was an educated young woman. So when she was in like on the streets, she had her little pigeon thing she would be doing, and she was flowing very well. And then when she was like within a corporate setting, or as we saw with Charles Okafor, she was speaking very like she had a refined speech of sorts. And when Charles Okafor's character was like, I didn't know you were a prostitute. I liked that interaction between them because, first of all, she wasn't like, oh no, I'm not. Oh, who told you this one? Who told you that one? She just said, okay, yes, this is what I am and all that. And he said, well, obviously, it can't work. And yeah, I just generally liked a lot of interactions. And the scene where she was with her girls and he came, when he came to visit her, she went to the room and she was telling them, oh, I told him that this one is a banker and this one is a lawyer. Yeah, like that interaction really, it made me smile. And I agree with the whole, they weren't fighting, they weren't competing with each other. It was just, they were just girls.
Yeah, and one thing I wanted to add is, especially this in comparison with the new Domitilla, which we can talk about when we're talking about other portrayals. This feels like actually a grounded version of sex workers because it feels more like normal. Because even when, and Elizabeth mentions one of them gets killed, but it's not their normal. And when it happens, it does shock everybody to their core. It puts the movie really does almost stop for like 7-8 minutes to mourn, the loss of, and it changes the trajectory of of her friends. Everybody starts rethinking their life but like, it's also just not something that is completely out of nowhere. It's not shying away from the dangers of sex work in Nigeria anyway. As it, I won't say as it was in 96. To be honest, I don't know how it was in 96 or how it is now. So, but I can imagine anyway. So, I'm, that way of like not making it overblown, because like, I feel like this new Domitilla isn't even really, it's not much about sex workers as much as it is human trafficking. It's more that. It's more somebody tricking. I know like it goes into sex work, but these people don't seem to enter it with their eyes completely open or willing. It feels like they got tricked into it, which feels like a slightly different thing. So I appreciated this version because that's what a lot of new Nollywood does now with the sex work. It's like, oh, they didn't mean it, or they stumbled into it, or somebody tricked them, that kind of thing. Whereas like this shows people who got into it, as a means of a way, right? I remember even when, Kate Henshaw's character dies, Jenny, when Jenny dies, in the old Domitilla, we now get a flashback that Domitilla introduced her to this life, and how she introduced her to the life. Like it wasn't, it wasn't a trick. It wasn't, I don't know what this new one is doing, to be honest. Honestly, this new one is not the worst thing of all time, but it's weird to still it just feels like a very different type of movie. And I don't know why it's still called Domitilla. There's no Domitilla in it. This Domitilla is the Domitilla.
No, now there was Domitilla now. This babe's character
Who
that said they should call her Domitilla. What's her name? The babe we no one marry now. The one we run come out.
Oh yeah.
No,
Onye Edukuru's character.
does she call herself Domitilla?
Yes, now when Madam, when Delicious Madam said something.
I wasn't in it long enough to notice.
Oh my God, I'm even more disappointed. They said I only will catch this one.
I thought she gave her. I thought the Domitilla thing, because they explained this Greek goddess thing.
Oh, Domitilla, I like.
And she gives her a card. And she gives her a card, say this is access to Domitilla or something. Wait, we need another head to confirm this.
Maybe we should run. I would have said let's run it back, but if I run it back, I have to chew my left arm.
Oh my goodness. Do you guys know, it just occurred to me that if they were doing Domitilla today, we would have gotten the movie from the point of view of Jenny. Like the whole coming from wherever, maybe like village.
Yeah,
they would have started with her in the village.
Jenny, yes.
Which is what we got basically, no?
Of Jenny, not of Domitilla.
That's what we got now. Isn't that what we got with the 2023
No, she's saying
version?
that if they did this exact story.
Yeah, no, but I'm saying even like this version, it's closer to Jenny's story, because somebody is running from village.
Yeah, but I think this one, if that her friend, the one that they were sewing together, if that one had been like, I'm introducing you to city life and stuff like that. Yeah, but this
I know.
they would have watched it from the point of view of Jenny.
And then look at, God, let's start talking about this new one, please. I have things to say.
Yeah, like. All right, so I guess other versions of portrayal of sex work. So we can start with the new one, but the new Domitilla. Mrs. Is there anything you wanted to add about the old one? No. All right. Mr. has not seen the new one. It's not anything. Yeah, don't worry, you're not missing a lot, to be honest.
Well, you are one of the lucky ones, my darling.
Yeah. Honestly, I don't think it's particularly bad. That bad is no. Let me correct myself. It's not a good film. But like I said, I don't think it doesn't feel like it feels much more cautious unlike the previous one. It feels like it's trying to tell the story of people who get tricked into this, like they're being forced into this lifestyle by or being tricked into this lifestyle, which I don't, it doesn't feel as honest as the previous one. It doesn't, or at least not, maybe not, let me not say honest. It doesn't feel as bold, right? Because, okay, right. Okay. They got coerced into it. It's not quite the same. So you can, but yeah, there's a lot more, there's a lot more that even the way the main character, the protagonist, when the protagonist moves from, uh, fashion designer to sex work, I'm just like, but why? Why? You just sold an outfit for $5,000. Why are we going into sex work? What are we? I
What happened to the money?
what are we doing? You seem
Also,
like you,
nothing felt earned here in the
yes.
new one. Nothing
It's,
was earned.
it's just,
Everything was a construction. It was engineered, and I think
exactly.
that's what pissed me off the most.
It felt like it wanted to tell the story about women who were forced into this, almost being trafficked into this sex slavery type thing. And
And
that's,
see, and it also didn't give any of them agency. And after that, it gave them backstories in quotes, a sub story backstory. Didn't give them exactly so much high agency. And then what was that payoff? And then it ended in them. What was that
With them
ending?
judging them.
Like what was that?
And
Because
then
Somebody's sister died.
meting out punishment on very
Somebody's
it
sister
felt
died.
individuals.
Is
like,
all
thank you,
Larry.
because what it felt like for me is that there's a lot of hatred for, and it's not hatred for for prostitution, right? Because you could say, oh, we didn't like prostitution and we want to make a movie to deter people. That's fine, because the way you would have written it will make sense. But this is not a deterrence. It's almost as though there is this fetish punishment. You acknowledge that they didn't want this life. You acknowledge that they wanted better. You acknowledge that they were forced into it. Then you say, oh, now that I know they forced you into, because we're talking about movies here, and movies are escapists. And they first started with that useless exposition. This is not the movie where prostitutes end with the rich prince or one thing like that. I was like, okay, who asked you? But please go ahead, continue. And then ended it with, you killed your sister, you killed your friend, you killed every people that the three of them went home. And, oh, you're in trouble. They were crying, please forgive me. And that was the end, guys. It almost felt like an humiliation ritual. It felt like we watched 2 hours of humiliation ritual, and like, what is the reason? Because it feels, again, where they are trying to do this high crime, prostitutes go into the underbelly, high crime. I don't even know why they've been doing this thing. I don't know if it's all real. I don't know if it is glamour girls. I don't know, this thing that they conjure some madam with a high one thing in running with the police, and then all these girls using them till they kill them, whipping. And then it feels, because even if you're going to write all of these things, at least it should be natural, right? Or what? Not even natural. You should convince me as the audience. But you're engineering all of this one-dimensional caricature with horrible costumes, and then this messy entanglement of human trafficking and forced prostitution, and then you're framing these women as helpless victims who fall into their circumstances with no real choice. And then you ended it with, well, no happy ending for you. All of you are in trouble. I'm gonna kill. This is a humiliation ritual. I sat down and watched all of this humiliation, and I was like, wah. Because apart from that, first, let's start with the brother. These have a cast of charismatic, beautiful girls, man. This movie had very, very beautiful babes, tragically underutilized. In fact, let me say misutilized, because structurally the story was flawed from the foundation. Like from the get-go, you could see what was wrong, because it dedicated nearly an hour into a laborious exposition and establishing heavy-handed backstories for all of its main characters. It spent 1 hour giving us backstory. In fact, our main people did not meet until maybe 50 minutes in, or I can't even remember. And then after doing that, all these their tragic histories were designed to elicit pity. And that's what annoyed me, because they ultimately serve little purpose in this film. They just abandoned all of this character work for a convoluted crime thriller plot. Like, I'm like, you know what? Call police, guys. Call police. And what that pained me again is that, apart from the fact that the dialogue was terrible, what pained me is that bestie, our painfully one-dimensional caricature of an Anambra babe bestie. What was that? What's the reason for it? Anyways, I rest my case.
All right, thank you. Alana, Vanessa, Iti. Alana, go on.
Please, my main grouse with this is that I am sick and tired of the victimization of women in these situations. I am sick and tired of Nollywood writing these helpless, useless women that just exist to be sex toys or whatever for male whatever, and then discarded, and then like I'm tired of it. It's disgusting and it's so anti-progressive. We cannot be writing stories like this in 2025. Like this thing that we're talking about, how they just happen to fall into prostitution. It's so sad because we grew up with a Nollywood that was writing boss ladies, women that did not fall into prostitution, but it was a means to an end. They were stringing men along. They were throwing and discarding men. Like when you think about watching things like Girl Scout and Abuja Connections, like this, they weren't writing women that just exist for let men just use them, and then at some point they will throw them away. It was a tit for tat situation. It was a use me, I use you. Chop me, I chop you. I just don't know why we are no longer creating any small thing. If it's not this one, that's stupid. Oh God. That's Glamour Girls are beginning. That one. I watched it yesterday. God, there was so much pain in my chest because I cannot believe that they were writing women like this. I am tired of them writing women like this. I'm not saying they should not write women as sex workers, but please stop writing them as every time helpless. Write them as people that are using men. Like, if you sit down with some of these girls, like, there's a lot of, I want to see some, variety with some women, with some of these female characters. It's not every time the same, they are just there for men to use them and to be playthings, after which they will be discarded. I want to see men weeping and gnashing their teeth on these things too. Like, they should please.
Sorry, you did not see where Uzamaka Power's character was beating somebody, because I don't know.
I don't even see that movie. It was such a
They were weeping. When I got to that side, I say, hey God.
Please, I hope it's not the BDSM. Please, I don't mean that kind of using men. I mean.
Now you use me. You are the one using the word use men now.
Like, no, I don't mean that one. It was for his own sexual gratification, and that one is still to the glory of the man. The man still enjoy. I mean, whipping and gnashing, the one that he said, the way Sharon Stone almost, God bless Sharon Stone, the way she almost successfully used all those boys, knock their head together. If only she had.
No, I even think that. I even think that if you're going to establish a character, to say the character has no agency at all, like, woe is me, I fell into prostitution, at least give them an ending that the payoff is satisfactory. Do you understand? Because if it's by force, you want to tell us that, look, poor me, and they are there like, to Jesus be my glory, I'll be like, well, fair enough. At least you wrote the story from point A to point B. But what do you mean that no agency? Woe betide me. At the end of the day, you say, you know what? You will not succeed. I will still make you lose. So why did I spend 2 hours?
Away everything.
Yeah. Vanessa.
I'm here. Okay, now let's go, because Moshe said, "Parifame me." So it's still hot in my stomach. Yeah, Hey, like I want to pick up from where Elizabeth finished. I want to count all these actresses that we have in this film. Even down to Madame Delicious. Jehovah. We have Elvina Ibru, Uzamaka Power, Onyinye Odokoro, Chioma Okafo, Teniola Aladefe. Who else do we have again?
I think Franca Brown was in this.
That's right. Okay. Now that we have cut down the number of powerhouses, because I don't care what anybody says, these girls are some of the few singular talents we have in Nollywood. Kamakuro, Kamajale, let's not lie, let's not steal. Now, they go do what they did to these girls. I've never seen nothing this bad in my entire life. Hey! Okay, we begin with our babe running away from home, running away from being entangled in a forced marriage. Here I was thinking, okay, character want to take her life into her own hands. She go to Lagos. She meets up with her caricature of a friend, with which God will punish whoever made my Chioma babe do that. Chioma is way too talented for that nonsense, but that's beside the point. Okay, she meets up with her friend. Also, can I just complain? The Okpa did not come out of the bag. Oh. She said she brought Okpa Enugu. I didn't see Okpa Enugu. She starts the bag. Because Okpa more. Bring out the Okpa Mbadu. Okay. Guys. God. Her friend says, oh, you still do this, your fashion drawing? Yeah, I want to be a fashion designer. You know, our girl is actually taking charge of her life. She's doing usher work. She's skinny. Then she gets the opportunity to sew clothes. And she sold clothes for $5,000. Guys, I don't care what anybody says in whatever economy this film was, at what point in time in Nigeria's economy this film was
Guy,
shot.
it was 1,000. It
$5,000.
was like
$5,000. Like, are
1,500
you
that
kidding
time.
me?
Oh,
You can open shop with that money. In Lekki.
I will
$5,000.
disappear. Not open shop. I will
Guys,
disappear.
Go back. How's
and the
bastard
way
money now?
and then our friend was saying we'll pay our rent. Money is not your rent. You will use this one to pay. You will use this one to set up a life. I'm confused. $5,000. It's not like we're not talking about 5,000 Canadian dollar. Neither are we speaking about Australian dollar. These US dollars. And it seems
Let's
like our
assume it's
concept
even
of
5 million naira. You can still run away with it now.
you can still run away with $5 million. I'm getting to my point here. You can still use 5 million naira to save your younger sister. Because ladies and gentlemen, they are telling us that the premise for which this particular character decided to, by mistake, fall inside prostitution is to save her younger sister from being married off. Perhaps I misunderstood the film. So with her $5,000, she cannot go and show her mommy, pay mommy, see you, I have money, I've started business, I'll be taking care of you. My sister does not need to marry anybody. No. It's prostitution. That's the solution. That one to decide. Teniola was, in my opinion, at least from what I witnessed, a regular girl in the club. I don't understand how, from trying to run away from a guy who was physically, sexually harassing her in the club, she ends up going into one office to see one thing that did one thing and then ended up in the prostitution. Why so? What are these contrivances, guys? Literally everything was so fabricated in this whole thing. As you people should every single situation that led to these girls being under the thumb of this madam that was wearing a scarf over her eye for the entirety of the film was contrived. Nothing about it felt like a natural continuance of any of their situations. They just said we have to come up with something so that these girls are trapped and have nowhere to go. The only person that probably felt, and I don't know how she even ended up there, perhaps I wasn't paying attention, was the one who was already working from the madam that was married and did one thing that entered one thing. What, guys? And then I don't know how her sister ended up in Lagos or wherever and how she got. What are we doing? And to have the effrontery after they helped ODD police to take down a criminal enterprise, to then punish these girls by going home and her mother is whipping her and one mother is blaming her for the loss of another child. and then for you to have the effrontery to cap it all off with a shower no be work. Guys, these same girls who you open eye used to trap in sex prostitution is whom you are now blaming. Don't prostitute. They did not want to prostitute. Are we pretending that you did not write what you wrote? If we are going by what they wrote, they did not want to prostitute. They themselves did not think that, well, except for Uzamaka's character who was already working the work. But like, you can now come from one place and then met out such heavy judgment on these girls. And I would just like to point out, this is such a departure. This film is supposedly by Zebe Jiro, who made the 1996 Domitilla. What happened? For someone quite so progressive in 1996, Kilo Shale in 2023. What is this? And I feel like we've had this conversation about the devolution of Nollywood and how it almost feels like a lot of our films in the 90s were way more, our ideologies were way more progressive than they are in current day and time. Not only just our storytelling being better back then, but even down to the quotes agenda that we were trying to push back in the days. It is way more conservative now. Like, what was this? What?
Vanessa, thank you very much, because I know how many times I paused this Domitilla to check if it was the same Zebe Jiro. I couldn't believe it's the same person.
It confounds me.
I was like,
And to all the men that were in this film, what were all of them doing?
useless.
From Deyemi to one thing that this one. Okay, and what were you all doing?
I was
They were running around.
I was
Okay,
looking.
that's okay.
They were doing snake in the monkey shadow. I was like, wait, I know how many times I paused. I couldn't believe that it was the Zeb of 1996, which goes to show again. See peer pressure. You see because obviously there's something in the water today that has mixed, and people that were writing more progressive things 20, 15, 10 years
I said
ago.
Izoloturi. Like,
It
I
has
need
to
to
be like,
catch Mo. I need her
and it
to
has
fight
to
me
be
man to
premise.
man. Eagle Square, 5
Ha!
p.m. tomorrow.
Hey God, though, it's like we'll be plenty that will be there. Oh.
All right. I want to give Uti a chance to speak her mind. She's been waiting to say a lot.
No,
Let's go.
I don't actually have a lot to say. The only thing I want to say is, like, I absolutely hate, like, this subgenre of I don't even know if it's called sex work or human trafficking. And the reason is because I feel like some of the stories need to be handled very delicately, and Hollywood doesn't do that. It's in Shantytown, it's in Oloture, it's in this Domitilla too. I remember watching this and I was just like, what the hell is going on? Like, now another problem with this movies for me is, okay, you started as social commentary, right? But like, if you have multiple of the same movies, basically doing the same thing, the only way you can differentiate, because Hollywood does this thing where, like, they always try to make they always try to find a way to make their movie different from the other movie with the same storyline, right? But I feel like with this subgenre of movies, the only way they can do that is, like, to make their own, like, degradation of this woman worse than the, I guess, previous one. So it now becomes a competition of how, like, which of these movies can make this woman look like, can degrade this woman more than the other one, which is, like, my annoyance with these movies. Because again, when you have multiple movies saying the same thing, why are we still having these storylines when, we have heard it, we have heard that, so if you do a shower walk or whatever, you can get into all of this. So it's like, why do we still have, like, multiple? And that's why I finished watching this movie and I was like, I hate this movie so much. I hate it so much because, like, what are you trying to do with this? Like, forget all the, oh, okay, they got into this now, and then at the end of the movie, all of them, like, ended up, they lost their family, lost all of this, and I'm just like, why? Like, what was the purpose of this? And yeah, that's basically my problem with sex work, and I feel like we should stop doing it until we are able to handle these stories delicately. And another thing I was gonna say is, like, for example, in Shantytown, right? I remember watching Shantytown, and they were showing a scene of, I don't know, I forgot it was a needle or somebody. They were showing a scene of someone getting assaulted, and it was like, why did you show us that scene? Why didn't you just imply it? And that's, like, again, my problem with how Nollywood portrays that. That's like back to saying Nollywood cannot handle the stories and they should literally stop doing the stories. But yeah, that's all I have to say.
All right. Thanks, Uti. So I guess one of the things even I wanted to point out, especially this same guy, yes, thanks for bringing it up, Zebedee, same guy who directed the first and the second. I think I'm guessing maybe all of the work was in the script. I can't remember who wrote the original one, but I remember seeing the name, and it wasn't. I can't remember whether Zeb co-wrote, but there was definitely somebody else, and maybe that's the progress. Maybe like Elizabeth was pointing out in terms of what being impressed by the script, and maybe that's where all of the glory was, and the directing wasn't really what got us to where we were, or maybe it didn't because. I'm thinking about it now. There are a couple of things that also jump out to this. At first I was thinking this one isn't quite the worst because in terms of this new Domitilla isn't the worst in terms of, its portrayal. I'm thinking about with his contemporaries like Oloture and Glamour Girls, and maybe even Thin Line. Like, there's, in terms of the way sex workers are portrayed, this one's not the worst. But this is definitely a regression in terms of the portrayal of sex workers. And it just occurred to me, yeah, so in the first one where there isn't this judgment, there isn't this judgment on sex workers from the writer's POV, right? Some characters do the judgment on the screen, but you can tell it's the characters on there. The film isn't doing the judgment. But in this, the fact that no one is getting into sex work with their two eyes open is not entirely like, it's saying, it's almost like admitting that, yeah, and nobody ever with their head working correctly will enter. Even Uzumaka, who gets into, admits she was abused abused as a child, like, right? Like, all the sexual abuse as a child, and this is why I'm here. So I'm not really sure. I don't know if people saw, I've seen like a little bit of the original Domitilla Part 2. The one from, I don't know when it was, but I don't know if anybody else has seen this. People have seen the original one. I think there's an original Domitilla Part 2, and Zebedee borrows a couple of shots / scenes from this one. That Part 2, Seth, that one is weird because it's very different from the Part 1. But even from the small that I saw in that one, it even has this thing where it's talking about the lives of these people. It's so strange because we start and Charles Okafor is married to Domitilla. I'm like, well, what? How did we? Because like the last time we saw it here, but they later explain it, and then it has this incredible. I almost want to call it it almost feels like a set piece sequence where Charles Okafor is spoilers. Close your ear if you don't want to hear any thing about the original Domitilla Part 2. But Charles Okafor is chasing his daughter's friend. Not chasing, sleeping with his daughter's friend. Yeah. And she comes to the office and his secretary is his guy woman, right? And they do this whole thing. Honestly, I didn't know I had watched that film until her friend takes off her pants, her pants, because that's what it was back then. That one was pants. Yeah. Not undies. She took off her pants. And there's this sequence where Charles Okafor is trying to hide his mistress, whilst his wife comes through into the office. Mm-hmm. It's actually quite fun, really well done. Charles Okafor hides the babe, and then it's about hiding all the small things that she comes in, and including the pants, and like he's sweating whilst doing it. And then after she leaves, he brings out, the pants from the pocket when he was trying to hide stuff, and he dabs on his face. He doesn't realize it's her pants. And then and then he looks at the pants and he's like, but it's actually the way that sequence plays out. It's such a fun sequence. And, but generally that film, even if it's in its very weird departure from everything else, because like, there doesn't really talk about sex work. It's
But
just
you notice that that's what they do in the 90s. Part 2 is a completely different movie from part
Part 2 is
1.
a completely different film. I guess it was the 2000s that started just breaking one film into part 2 and part 3 and part 4. But it was a completely different film. But what this was doing was, it was almost the ghost of being a sex worker was just following all of all of them. It's every time these people thought they had moved, and these people, and they're different at different places in their lives, but the past of being a sex worker still just keeps on chasing them. And it was actually interesting. At first I was like, what's going on? But it gets explained. It's much more interesting than whatever the hell this was. Again, yeah, I don't know. I guess we were a little bit in our bag in the 90s.
No, I think
Anyway.
94 and 96, maybe 96, they have one of the best, like, and if you look at all the list of movies that came out, like, say, 94, 96, maybe they're like 8 or 10, and everything used to look like hits back to back. Like, it's like people used to sit down. What I've noticed about most of the movies that these films start immediately, like, is media res, like, they start, you don't have to, they're not calling you, they're not asking you to sit down, they're not giving you, excuse me, they will just drop you in the minutes. Like, they will later, it's media res. I don't know if you noticed that it's media res they use. They will now tell you, they will use, later, they will not fill you in on what happened. You know how you saw Charles Okwaz, like, what's going on there? They explain it to you later.
Yeah, it's so, I found it so interesting. They didn't explain. I'm like, wait, him and are like together, and why would that happen? Like, we know Charles Okafor's, once he learned she was a prostitute, he packed his bag. He was so disgusted and he left. But they explain it, and the explanation makes sense, and it's actually part of the drama of this thing I was talking about with the ghosts, of her previous sex work life. And then also, you see this beginning where they were running, in the way this glamour girl starts, the girls were running in the beginning they were running from danger or something. That scene's from the second, or that sequence, and then somebody's calling. Yes, it's taken from the second one. It's so much better done in the second one though. And it's strangely, the stakes are less because those are girls who are going to party, and trying to come back, trying to avoid their parents kind of thing. But I can't remember what happens when the phone rings, but, the girl changing in the back of a cab, that happens in the new one, taken from the second one as well. The original second Domitilla. So there are really interesting sequences that got lifted from it, but like without any of the fun or context that made it more interesting. I don't know. We're actually getting worse. this is actually,
Yes, we are.
it's actually sad.
Yeah, we
We're
are.
actually getting worse. It's everybody, which, hence our space last week.
So I just checked, and the story, the part 1 Domitilla, is actually by Zeb Ejiro, but the writer is a Ken Ogenejabo.
Yes, Ken. Yeah, do said
Man,
about
somebody
stories.
needs to call Ken Ogenejabo. Somebody needs to call him. You know what? I'm looking at the sequence of the running. That sequence of the running was in a trailer. I'm looking at it now. Oh, I didn't watch it, guys. I'm going to have to watch it later. Thank you for the recommendation.
Yeah, that second one, I don't know, that second one, I haven't finished the second half. Why I stopped it was the first half, but it's really engaging. And honestly, the way we develop our stories, the way our stories unfold, was so much more interesting back then. In this one, yeah, again, not as interesting. And honestly, I think this new Domitilla is one of the better version. Is there anything, does anybody know of any new Nollywood, film that does sex work better than this Domitilla, this new one?
I off of the top of my head,
Remember that
actually.
shower voice is short.
No, shots don't count. Film,
Off
that's
of the
gotta be,
top of my head, no.
Aria Root.
huh?
How about Grind? Although that's not a movie.
Oh yeah, the TV series. I do like it.
I haven't
Yeah.
seen Grand. It's Grand has sex work, isn't it?
Oh,
Yeah,
I
and
think
it's on
that's even the
Prime.
entire thing.
Yeah,
No, they were not even
basically,
exactly sex workers. Actually, they
sex
were
workers. It was not like a
They were pole dancers
strippers.
at first. Yeah,
Yeah.
but I mean, I think the second season was leaning. I mean, I'm guessing if we ever get a third season, it will be about sex work.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's just like it utilizes a lot of all this imagery to like the girls in that, not exactly sex work, but like, all these dancers and in clubs.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think it was badly done either. It wasn't exactly
It's not.
judgmental either in the writing. The writing, no,
Mm-hmm.
characters, yes. But in the writing, not exactly. So maybe Grind is one that will come to a close second. I would say close second, although there's nothing although we're by season 2, the end, even though it's interesting, I think we're going to get to an inciting incident. They've given us
Yeah.
something for maybe that will not make the characters go into sex work. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think maybe season 1 of Grind and maybe half of season 2 would be a
Yeah,
closely done second. We
there
don't
seems to be
have
something about
nobody's writing.
film. There seems to be something about film that because in feature length films, because Mrs. C was reminding me, Barriga Sugar does sex work really well. It's one of the better written pieces with where the portrayal of sex work is done excellently. The other one I was thinking about when she was talking about a short was Something Special. Something Special has, I think it's the third story, right? Where it's a sex worker's first. I
Oh
think so.
yeah, the
I
guy's
think
first
it's
time.
guys first and was it the sex worker's first? No, well, I can't remember.
No, it was not the
No,
first, but they ended up talking into the night or something.
yeah. That was such a sweet, yeah. That was, yeah. Hi, where's Precious? Oh, Jesus. Maybe Precious will come and save us from,
Honestly, because I think when I was watching this Domitilla, this latest one, and I think one of the things that really got me really angry again is you have to be kidding. Like Yuti mentioned, we have stories like this exactly that already exists. So why now? Like, what's the reason? And then at the quality of our writing, if you look at almost all the movies, I just googled 1996 Nollywood films in 96, and it's quite a list, and it's quite a really good list. It's Zeb and his brother Chico and what's this other guy and Amenechi. They were really busy, but almost all the films are something that if you watch, they are better written. Even in today, from there was Violated There, The Silent Night, there's Mortal Inheritance, Hostages, Glamour Girls, Dead End. Like, it just feels like people were writing. And if you notice, there's maybe it's also the style. Everybody is writing backstories now. I don't know again who asked you people for backstories. Why are we seeing our first inciting incident like an hour into the film? I'm not even inciting in that sense, but like when it felt like something coming together. I mean, because we can say inciting incident for each character was but by the time all of them got together, it was like close to an hour into the film. What's the reason? Whereas back then, almost all these movies I'm talking about, Violated, Silent Night, Mortal Inheritance, look at the first scene of each of these films started immediately. Like, I remembered Mortal Inheritance, we had our meet cute, like, first scene.
By the way, I'm sure Elizabeth's been arrested by her little one.
Yeah, by my family members.
If anybody, Elizabeth's right about those times. I just remember, I think from the second, the 90s, I imagine it's the 90s, Domitilla Part 2. There is a sisters rescue clan that a lot of these people join. If you do enjoy your feminism to the point of anti-men, this thing, those people are there to represent you. Huh? Oh, you're asking for the name of the film. Yeah, very mad woman. But Domitilla Part 2. Domitilla Part 2, yeah. And the funny thing is Domitilla is trying to represent like a more moderate feminist, and everybody else is like, nah, fuck man. Nah, this man, no, this is like, if you're here for women's wrong, go watch this babe pull out.
I didn't actually watch Domitilla 2, guys.
It's
Like,
like,
I've never
Elizabeth, go
watched
watch
it.
it.
I remember watching the first one when I was younger, and my mom was like, you know what, that's it, we're not watching the second one. I never
It's
watched it. I am
unhinged.
surprised the second one, I'm watching it now.
It's unhinged. This woman pulls out this boy, like, after giving him a little pep talk about don't embarrass me. I'm going to show you to my girls. It's a little boy. It's like, he takes it to me and he's like, and I'm one of the people like, no, this boy is too small now. What year in university is this one? And he's like, SS3. And it's like, hey, no, this one is too small. And then they're like, and then she's like, please shut up. Is it not you that was with that one that was in, Jazz 2 or something like that? And I was like, oh my God, where are we now? And she was like, fuck man, we've suffered enough. Is that, and then,
Hola, have you heard?
yo,
I will actually be going to watch that one because
it's actually,
God, I beg,
it's,
women have
it's
suffered
actually,
in Nollywood though. Women have really suffered in
yo,
this new Nollywood. Like every time it's just sob story. Like,
yeah. And
are
I
we
hear
not
you in that.
suffering enough in real life?
I hear you in that, and that's part of the thing that's annoying is like you don't get the woman with like a spine and determination and trying to do something. And that's what again the old Domitilla is like. People aren't just rubbishing her, and like she's not just there to be used and abused and go through suffering. She is trying to make it. She is making active decisions that impact her life, and she takes responsibility and accountability when it doesn't go wrong, and she tries another move, right? Yeah, pivot. I remember when she goes to the church, like at least even though I'm going to, like, even if I'm going to die, let me at least get some Jesus. Let me get some last minute Jesus. Let me get some last minute JC before they call it, before I see the pearly gates. Anyway, so I think there's just like the characters are making interesting choices and stuff where now it's just, ooh, how do I make you feel sorry for this female character? Haha. We shall put some essay.
Then we'll make you feel sorry for this character. Then we put them in a humiliation ritual at the end. What was that?
Put them in their place now, so everybody can be humble.
You know what? You're right.
Yeah, but yeah, obviously nothing will outdo Glamour Girls, because the new Glamour Girls, which is a very unhinged film. The thing I remember the most from Glamour Girls is that nightclub scene where they started singing. I know it's a remix, but they started with the actual nursery rhyme. I'm like, this is a movie about sex workers and when a club and you are
You're
starting
my honey bun sugar plum.
oh God.
Somebody thought they cooked well.
Yo.
Somebody thought
It was
Uh,
so unhinged, like it threw me off. I was like, huh? Huh?
Someone was saying this a couple weeks ago, so that the consumption of drugs, the output we're giving, like, indicates a high level of drug use.
yeah.
Nani talk am.
Now you talk high level of drug use, panel will be shooketh.
um,
Oh.
Vanessa, what did you want to say?
I wanted us to, I was just thinking about the more recent stuff, aside from the remakes, the ones that weren't, what was it really nonsense trafficking, kill and stuff. Adire. Do you guys remember Adire?
Oh, it's
Oh
true.
yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah,
don't
This
think
yeah.
the
guy
sex
is a
was
bankole,
yeah,
sex worker turned luxury entrepreneur.
true.
Me, I'm one of the very few people that like that era.
No, the premise of it sort of makes sense, but the problem is in the execution.
Yeah, the
Execution is
execution
the
was
work.
yeah,
Yeah.
but I think well too in that one, the sex work. To be fair, in the beginning, she ran away from her pimp, and they also portrayed it to be sex work equal to crime. There is this link that New Nollywood has decided that once they've linked prostitution and and we're not talking petty crimes. We're not talking of somebody stealing from them, and of course because there are in the real world there are real challenges and hazard. Let me use that word, work hazard for sex workers. But that's not what we're looking at here. They are linking it to high level crime.
Can I
Like
can I
one
tell you where they got this thing from? Not necessarily got it from, but like one person did it and they just said, okay, we're gonna keep doing this. And the person who did it was groundbreaking in the first place. In the way they portrayed the women, they didn't portray them as victims as such. They portrayed them as being actively participants. Was the original Glamour Girls. There was this is what government
oh
officials
yeah.
do. This is what government officials do with prostitutes is criminal activities. There's an underbelly of source. They were using them to get land. They were using them, There was all this, with, there were contrast. Let me show, and Abuja connections as well. Let me show you, I've got Abuja connections. You're not the only one with Abuja connections. There was all that, let's show you the underbelly. I'm sorry, I have to do a Eukarya. You cannot not let
You're
me even
jealous
talk
of
in
my
my Eukarya
body.
voice. It's
I
just my beautiful body.
yeah,
Guys.
Abuja Connections is an unhinged movie. That movie. I've not seen that movie. I don't even think that movie is
And
good,
Eukarya
by
was
the
in
way.
Glamour
That
Girls
movie is
too.
not good. That movie is just unhinged.
It's
Pure
unhinged.
unhinged.
I love it. Hey, I know you
100%.
envy my beautiful body.
No!
Or I think Patience was in that too when she was
This level.
when she said something about when someone was like, you call me a prostitute, and she said that's if the word whore is not
It's
outdated.
not. Yes! Sorry, guys. Lies they cry.
Why is they
Lies they
cry,
cry.
bro?
See, but that's the thing is like these people saw one person do this and they were like, how do we then even make it worse and show people an even darker underbelly? And since then, nobody wants to do anything different. Everybody, from now to tomorrow, there must have a child trafficking, woman trafficking, serious crime going on, not even petty petty. One person stole one person, one thief, one ashawo stole somebody's $5,000 and ran away. No, it's serious crime. And I just think everyone gets lost in this thing and everyone's doing this crime and it's like, just show people. Just show people, and which is what I think, as much as Adire had hints of it, Adire did that, was show people. Did he do it very well? No, but he showed people,
Yeah,
when
it's the
he made people,
humanizing these characters
yeah.
beyond, their vocation in quotes,
Mhm.
right?
Exactly that. Even the people in the village that he moved to, it showed this community, however flawed the community were and however flawed the writing of these people was. It just showed people. We didn't need all that big, even though they ended up by the third act, we had this big dramatic, killing or somebody burning one house or doing one thing to one thing. And I was just like, guys, you could have just kept this in the slow paced, low stakes drama that we sort of had versus having her pimple come and try and burn her house down and while she's in it. It's like, why must we just always in our third act reverse back to some big drama? If it's not a shootout, it's a police car chase. Like,
No, but I even think for that the reason because it's a regular trope too in Hollywood. You know, your character steals from something and goes to this little sleepy town to hide out. Of course, all of us, including the audience and the writer, we are waiting. All of us are waiting patiently
No,
for the person they stole from.
Elizabeth is going to be forever Adire apologist. We know that. That's fine. When I compare it to like this, the ending of this Domitilla, like the ending is like, it's a court drama, where the truth comes out and it gets revealed and it's all tied to the small issue of still the way sex workers are looked. One thing we were talking about, Miss C and I, was how when Jenny died, nobody gave a shit. But because Big Man died now, everybody's talking about, everybody's looking at the Ashawo and like, okay.
Yeah.
And her
The newspapers is a big deal.
and her words don't,
I was, yeah.
her words
And she
don't mean
was
shit because she's a
automatically
sex worker.
Yeah.
everybody,
And
automatically she was the suspect. Nobody cared to investigate any other thing.
Yo,
I said, who has to kill?
and with her being the original target, if she had died,
nobody would have
given a fuck.
nobody would have cared. Yeah, because again, like, you know, it's the class that you're in, and even back then, it's funny because there's a point where they are all talking about this work no be good work. We need to leave this work and all of that. And again, I can't tell you how, for me, as opposed to hearing the writer judging the sex work, that I might be doing it, but like it happens after they just see their friend
die,
get killed. It shocks the whole, everybody, it touches all of them to the core, right? And everybody starts thinking about like life
Next step.
after this, because like this is clearly not, this is not a safe line of work. But that felt, again, grounded within the story that
and
was being told.
Domitilla does not leave the line of work for something that is like,
glamorous. Yeah, exactly. She goes
in line with morality. No, she goes to become some rich guy's mistress.
Yeah.
She's off the streets. It's a safer situation until his wife tries to kill you. But assuming no psychotic wives involved and just a run-of-the-mill wife.
Yeah.
Safer.
Yeah, because she still ended up being a mistress. And you look at it, do you know, see how sane that progression is? Because I am very certain, I can't be very certain, but I think there was one in Zikoko Mags, whatever, that was similar to this, where most of them that are on the streets, it's like their upward mobility is not always, oh, I'm gonna go open a store or a shop. Their upward mobility looks like them being a permanent mistress, or not even to one person that can fund their lifestyle. Do you get? It's almost as though from street work to not even runs,
Kept
but
women.
being a kept woman.
Yeah.
Yes, when I was in uni, it was very. In fact, when I was in uni, there was this common saying that if you go to Leary, if you go to Surulere side, or one side in Ikeja, can't remember the name, that, you know, most of the ladies who had boutique there have Oyinbo, Oyinbo husbands. Older Oyinbo husbands are usually street workers. Like, it's almost a mobility plan. You get somebody bigger, richer. If it's not a white man to marry you, it's a married politician. But their upward mobility looks like being kept or having money. So it's very realistic to say they killed your friend is so jarring. The best thing you can do is run into another man. You know, it is stable, that like you get you out of that life. And look at it, it's not as if her friends just went to go and start business either. It was not until like she set that one up. And she had markets, she was selling buckets and plastic in the market. Again, it looks so real. Let me use that word because there's something new Nollywood does now, and I don't know if it is the Lekification or the Airbnbification of our stories now. When we're writing upward mobility for certain characters, it's not even I don't know if it's ambitious or it's what's that word, aspirational, because some of the aspiration are just so, sorry, are you sure that's what they're aspiring to? It just always come off as they do not have one thing. Oh, I just feel it just makes sense, street worker, now somebody's mistress. So God be the glory.
I love that this Domitilla, the first one, did have to God be the glory. One of the things, you know what?
Oh, no, I was going to talk about like the other spectrum of like sex work in, I guess, Nollywood. So the big Nollywood has like, I guess, Netflix and all of that. They're doing the high crime sex work, while other counterparts, the YouTube people are doing the version of Pretty Woman, which is very annoying. That's some random man goes to go and meet the sex worker, and then they talk, and then they realize, oh, you should not be a sex worker, and she actually knows book and she can do this and that. She gets away from sex work, and it's just so annoying. I'm just like, you guys don't even have, like, they cannot do any of them right, because the Pretty Woman romance part is horribly done, the high
Benevolent
crime one is horribly
misogyny.
done, and I'm just like, what are we doing?
I was going to give you people recommendation of a YouTube film that merges both the Pretty Woman and high crime. But
Pretty Woman.
Human and high crime.
Loving
Oh,
it.
yeah. Where did the point start? I think I didn't even get
I
to
don't
even
know
hear
where
the
we are.
start of the point. The thing just,
Are you serious? Me, I was thinking, yes, because she was talking about how we do the pretty womanification of, if we are not doing pretty womanification of sex work, we are going the extreme end. She was saying something around that before Elon told me that, wait, your host does not have internet.
Alan is a dirty liar. He's a dirty liar. His face does not have internet. But
Not pay internet bill. Not pay for Wi-Fi.
anyway,
Two people want my YouTube recommendation of both Pretty Woman unification and high crime.
Let us have it.
Let's go. It's on Uche Montana's channel.
I
It's
think
called.
Uche
It's
Montana is
called.
banned, no?
No, she's not. It's called The Lady and Her. Where is Ola? Is Olana here? It's called The Lady and Her something.
The lady and her gentleman. I'm supposed to say
Ah,
it before they
hooray!
enter those.
Cynthia, don't. I'm not saying you should go and
Mama,
watch it. I'm just telling you people that this is what it is. She both had Pretty Womanification and
yes.
high crime.
Yes.
You
And
know,
then the
he
next thing
Pretty
he was
Woman
trying to
her,
save
but
her.
also she was a victim of a child trafficking
Yes.
into sex work channel.
Then
Quite.
the worst thing, she was a victim of love interest that don't used to kiss. That's the worst thing.
Aha!
That's the worst that happened to her.
That's one thing I don't understand in this new TV. Like, sometimes you just get love romantic leads and they're not even. I'm not saying people should be kissing all the time, but like at least
It's only Clinton.
the one
It's
kiss.
only Clinton and the golden lips that don't used to kiss.
I'm sorry, the golden
Everybody,
lips.
That
why are
entire
we
film
acting
would
one
have
form
been.
of the donkeys?
Why couldn't Michael Dapper save her? Why did he have to be Clinton?
Mind you, Michael Dapper can speak Hausa,
He
and
can speak
there was
Hausa,
another character in that film that was blowing
speaking
Hausa,
Hausa, and was 1,000 times
more
more
charismatic.
interesting, more charismatic than
Yes.
the other
But
light skinned boy. Why couldn't they bring
Boy, is
Michael
that boy
Dapper?
not a small boy?
That boy is not a small boy, it's like 27, 28.
Clinton not
Eh?
That's
be
a
talking,
grown man. Wallahi
Okay,
Salahi.
I don't know his age. I was thinking that maybe he's like 19. That's
A
why
lot
he's
of
not
people are
kissing
it's
thinking
anybody.
he's
because he doesn't want
19.
to kiss
He
that he
doesn't
keeps
want to
acting
kiss.
teenage roles.
That's the thing. But he's not a 19, he's a 20 stuff. He's in his late 20s and he's still doing all these things for us.
Has
Why
he
for me?
considered acting?
Sorry, you people should go and look
Considered acting
for.
or
You people should go
casting
and get that from
something?
somewhere else. Sorry,
see that
I don't
that
even watch. I don't think he's a good actor, so I don't watch his films.
look, if you want to cast that boy, as far as I'm concerned, if I was looking for, like, maybe I want to cast a brooder that is not even the main character, a supporting character in here. But please, to cast main character, you're telling me that I watched film for 3 hours and this guy was so obsessed with this girl, sex worker girl. He was following up and down. He was bringing her out of terrible situations, and after everything, he couldn't even kiss her once.
Olana, maybe it's you, not him.
No, it's definitely him. I think all the drag, that's one of the movies that made people start dragging him at one point. That like, please, if you know you're not going to kiss, go and be doing Binta and Friends. That's where you're supposed to be. Don't come here. We are trying to act 18 plus adult people film for people, grown people to watch, and then you're telling me that you do film 3 hours, you have love interest, and you did not kiss her once. If that's even an insult to the sex work, because that means that you are trying to tell me that you are repulsed by this girl that you're supposed to love so much. Because are you kidding me? Hi God. But anyway, it was aside the fact that he did not kiss, it was an almost bearable movie. It was kind of okay, kind of.
All right. Uti, they say I'm waiting for your last point to finish, and then let's round up. I don't know if there's any other film. So we've recently discussed Thin Line. Obviously, Glamour Girls, the new one, wasn't good. Lottery 1 and 2 is a no-no. What other films? Oh, there's
Shantytown, Adire.
yes, Aguirre, yes. This is not technically a Nollywood film, but Joy is brilliant. It's on Netflix. I don't know. I was so shocked that this film is made by an Oyibo person. I can't remember. I watched this film and I was like, this person they understand both the Nigerian culture of the way this whole thing works, and they must be aligned with a Nigerian immigrant that understands all the dynamics of this thing. I went and it's a white, very, very white woman, very, very white, and so shocked by all of this. But yes, Joy, brilliant depiction of sex work. So that's if you have not seen it, it's on Netflix. Anyway, Uti, I can't remember. Did you finish your point about the?
Honestly, cannot even remember what I was saying, but I don't remember what I was saying, so it's fine.
All right. Is there anything else? Is there any other film I'm missing? Any other points anybody wants to make about how Nollywood portrays sex work in Nollywood? Alana, go ahead.
This is not necessarily sex work, and it's more of I just want to hail the people that did White Hunters for us that year. It wasn't sex work, but it was just another situation of using men to elevate yourself, and it also had really nice lines like "I'm looking for Catawal, she's British," and I just want to say, yeah, I just want to hail. I think that was the last women just taking charge of their own destinies kind of movie that I saw in Hollywood. That it didn't necessarily make them look stupid, but at the same time, yeah. I just wanted to hail them.
I just remember, I was thinking of White Hunters. When I was thinking, I didn't know sex workers, but I think they were stealing money.
They were doing a lot of things.
They
They
wanted to marry
just
man.
wanted to elevate.
They just want to elevate by marrying
Marrying
when
this,
you really be Oyibo.
exactly. All
Yes.
these fake Oyibo, they were getting those Nigerian Oyibos.
Yeah.
My God, that was a dark time, Sha, but
Mercy Johnson in her bag. That's all I remember.
I swear she was so in her bag, man. Now I'm looking for Catawal. She's British. I quote it every single time.
Funke Akindele in her bag. I'm sorry, what?
Akindele with the Prajesh. Abi Prakash.
Yes.
Prakash.
When Funke Akindele was accusing somebody of stealing her man, she said, "And you stole my man, Labe Mumi." I will never forget. Under my nose, she said, "Labe." See, everybody was on
They were in their bag in that movie.
By the way, every once in a while, I do get reminded that Funke is actually somebody who really can act. It's just
Condition I make crayfish belly.
Yeah.
And she did it again in I think Pretty Liars. I think her acting in Pretty Liars. She and this lady, I think Queen Wokoye. They were like the chemistry was really good there.
Even what's this? Even I'm trying to think. what's the name of this? Ishoke. Funke Ishoke is actually,
Very good, yeah.
she's not acting whatever the
She's one
normal
of those
thing.
best sidekicks,
Yeah,
like friendship sidekick. Now she added a really good
dimension.
chemistry to that
Yeah.
friendship. Yeah.
Agreed. Anyway, yeah, let's go on.
I had a quick question. This is not, I guess, not exactly Nollywood, but has anyone read on Black Sister Street by
Yeah.
Chika?
Yes. Chika Nugwe, is that her name? Yeah.
Yes. Oh no, no. I was just saying that like I remember reading that, and I think it was also like exploring like sex work. And I mean, we can never compare like Nigerian literature and Nollywood, but I remember reading it and I could feel certain things that I guess they wanted me to feel. And I think that's what Nollywood tries to do with, well, they don't try to do with their movies. Their own movies are different, but like I think that was, I don't know if it was like a good way to show sex work, but I just remember like I feel like it did a much better job, like try a much better job, showing like I guess the harsh realities of sex work. But again, that's Nigerian literature. I don't even know why I'm even saying it in this conversation when Nigerian literature and Nollywood are complete that
No,
My
I think
dear,
it even
seven
makes
thousand
sense from the point of
responses.
sex trafficking also, because even in the book too, they were forced into, but it's
yes.
from the angle of sex trafficking.
Yeah, it was mostly sex trafficking actually, yes.
Mm-hmm. It was honestly, I remember reading it years ago, and I think I was part of a book club that discussed it. And honestly, the layers to the book, Nollywood can only dream to achieve. Um, and to be honest, if we say we should give them book
You
to
people, they will
adapt,
do adaptation.
well,
They will
we all
strip the
saw what
book.
we saw in Swallow.
They will
So let
strip
us
the book
just
of
protect
its
our book.
essence.
Or maybe, what if this is what they were trying to do in the first place? Maybe a bunch of them read these books and then decided, because again, the difference between literature and film is that with literature, because I remember that on Black Sisters Street is also that one of them out of the four died, and then there was a lot of introspection and reflection about how they got into the country and all that, and sex trafficking. And the difference is that the way literature immerses you into this world, it's different, right? But the difference between literature in book and on screen is that you, even in book, you can't use exposition to say, oh, woe is me, this is the life, it was not my fault and I just met myself in here. Whereas in film, you have to be deliberate that the voice of the scriptwriter does not overshadow the character, because that is, look at the newer Domitilla. That's basically what happened, because you can feel the script writer letting you know, and it feels like these women are making decisions that are not grounded in reality, and the payoff is unearned, and so many things just feels unearned because again engineered to look a certain way. I personally think we can end up having a movie with four women who unwittingly got into prostitution, but it would not be written the way this 2023 Domitilla was written, because you need to let the audience see. But because we're told a lot, even the ones that are showing us that, oh, she was getting married, she told her sister, I will go, bye. She jumped into it. Just feels so, and then now the stars to marry, now she has to go back. And so many things are just going on. It just feels, because the story, them, all of these girls getting into prostitution didn't happen, even prostitution, we don't know, getting into this crime, whatever, sex trafficking life, did not happen until 1 hour in. So what was the point? Again, this is not Tales by Moonlight. You can't gather all of us under the mango tree, under the udara tree, and start telling us a story and then start from when they were 3 years old. It just feels so weird, because if this is a film about four girls in crime life, like we see them, because again you have to humanize. Not even, I don't want to use the word humanize. You have to put your characters in regular schmegular living day-to-day reality. You have to break whatever it is that you're trying to show. So if it's that your character went to go and buy from before we now see them in that life, because what we're doing is comparing Domitilla 1 to the 2, even in techniques of storytelling, they showed us these girls from the first day. They were on the streets as they started writing credit like this. We saw them filing up. We saw their camaraderie with Basoju was their pain. Mind you, even when at the end, when we were going to save Domitilla's life, when they were looking for money to go and for a human rights lawyer, it was Basoj that went to go and meet the friend. We're talking about even the pimp that had to help us. So many stereotypes that were broken. But now we have stereotypes about what we assume sex workers do, what we assume they get into sex work to do, what we assume, what we think is the punishment. Do you get the comeuppance that they deserve? They have to, it just has to be humiliation ritual. I don't know what the point is. I'm sure everybody in Domitilla one has one sub story why they went into prostitution. In fact, I'm sure, including the person that died, we saw that all of them had the sub story. But the sub story was not the reason for the film. By the time we started hearing that sub story, we're not feeling sorry for them. They've already established who they were as characters. We already fell in love with their camaraderie. We already know that they are crazy people, they love each other. And by the time they told us their sub story, we didn't care again. It's not the reason why we love this character or root for them.
Yeah, I agree. And this thing that Terrence just made a comment saying, why is Nollywood so fond of having their inciting incident in the 1 hour mark of their movie? I don't know why it's coming so late recently. It's very, I remember doing almost the same thing that even Mo is complaining about, where I was checking the time. I remember checking it about 27 minutes and I was like, is this going to be about sex work, to be honest? Because at that time, it was when I think 27 minutes the first time sex work gets introduced to one of the characters, right? And I just, anyway. Alana, what did you want
I don't know. I don't think actually these days that the whole idea of them adapting from like this thing that this thing you mentioned that some of the stories are gotten from books. Maybe they read something and then it's inspired them to write something. This new Nollywood, I'm not sure I've watched anything and thought, they must have been inspired by a book. Older Nollywood movies, sometimes the stories were so detailed that you would know if they got it from a book, if they got it from the Bible, if you would know, because you get to a point in the story and then you're like, is this not Elijah? So I think the older movies, yes, the whole idea of inspired by a book, but these days, I don't know if they are still reading books. Sometimes stuff like with this older Domitilla and stuff like that, sometimes you would even think, maybe these people actually sat down to talk to some of these prostitutes. Maybe somebody had some form of engagement and they are coming from a place of maybe they've listened to somebody's story. But these days it's as if people are not talking to prostitutes again. I don't know why. Maybe sometimes in order to understand characters, you need to be with the characters. You need to, perhaps, I don't know if anybody has thought of doing market research sometimes with the characters they write, because the thing that is almost missing. No, you you need to do market research sometimes. You will carry yourself and you enter streets. I'm sure it's not hard to find brothel. It's not hard to find one or two people that they've been through things. You can even read Zikoko and do your research, but Zikoko has done so much research already for the culture. So even if you would read only that, you would think that some of these stories would have a little more depth to them. But yet they keep giving us these half-arsed stories, like you don't even care for the humanity of the person. It's just, let me just write something that people will say, oh, that's I don't think I can align new Nollywood with reading anymore. They don't bother to enter streets, they don't bother to open book, or they are opening books, but it's not the right books because the stories don't have the kind of depth. They don't have soul. That's what they don't have. That's why we are here doing back and forth with movies that feel like eating paper mache.
Thank you. I think Uti, you had your hand up.
Yes, I was just gonna say one last thing. I think I hadn't watched Domitilla 1, but from what everyone is saying and from also reading Black Sister Street, I think the main thing they did in those movies were they made the sex workers, the sex workers were the main characters of this movie. I feel like with Domitilla 2, even if they thought they were making those women they were making those women the main characters, they were actually like more side characters and more like pawns. It was just more of like, which is so interesting to me because they specifically used like, what's her name? Like those really good actors. So I'm like, why did you go and seek these really good actors when all you're doing is just moving them around? Like they're literally like puppets, just moving them around. So they could have used like any actors to do that. They're basically saying that like, I feel like maybe the whole goal was to make these women the main characters, but again, I don't even know who were the main characters in these movies. And that's why it's so different from, I guess, watching Domitilla 1, because if you make these women the main characters in movies, right, we see other things. Like, again, we've said womanizing like multiple times. Like with Black Sister Streets, another thing that really made me enjoy it was like, you see the bonds between the women that we've discussed already. You see how they're struggling. You see how they're trying to survive. But with like Domitilla 2, it was just like, okay, we're just going to put this woman and just, make you see that, just use them to show you how terrible this is, and we don't really care about them as people, and we don't really care. Like, I feel like outside even the movie itself, like they're victims of the storyline. They're victims of just like everything the directors wanted to do, which is very unfortunate because why are you using these really good women in Nollywood to be doing? I don't know what they were doing, but yeah, that's all I have to say. And I think the last thing to say.
Yeah, I agree. I think is the main crux of a key difference. Because that first one, you do have all these characters with these different flavors that make decisions based on the flavor on who they are. And in this one, it's just, it feels like anybody can be tricked into, I guess, sex trafficking, especially based on how they jumped into it, right? Because apparently somebody who just sold a dress for $5,000, apparently, yeah, sure, will get tricked into like, so then what does it matter? It doesn't matter what character they are. It doesn't matter what it would have been. So yeah, that's just the key difference, is that it just wanted to have this main villain of Madame V, where in the first one, there's no big villain in the first Domitilla. There is no Madame V. The villain is their socio-economic class. That is their villain for the movie, and everybody's trying to escape it. In a lot of them, sometimes they're using a boy, hoping a man will come and marry them, a boyfriend will take them out of this, or they're just hustling their own everybody's trying to escape the class where, they can, everybody's trying to climb into the next class, and the way they can do it, this is the way they know, right? That's their reason for doing this, whereas in this, it's just, it's just they got tricked. Whoops. Well, okay. Thanks. Anyway, all right. Thanks, everybody. Good convo. Maybe I think it might be worth at some point looking at the remakes as a whole and having a conversation about them. So we've basically done Domitilla. I don't know if we've done The Old Living in Bondage. I think that might be an interesting one to do, because the Living in Bondage, the new one, was one that wasn't seen as at least bad, even by me, when it first came out. But I do recognize it is a lot less superior. And I think if you haven't watched The Old Living in Bondage, I think that's going to be a trip for you. But next week, I think something might be coming out on one of the Netflix or something like that. We'll have a look to see what it is, and then we'll pick up from there. But thanks everybody who joined and who did your homework on this, and we'll speak to you again next Sunday. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the episode. If you enjoyed listening and would like to join live, just follow us on Twitter at Iroko Critic and join us every Sunday 6 p.m. West African time on our spaces.